This figure looks oddly familiar, which is because you've probably seen a rendition of it before. As The Weeknd started his second leg of the tour, we were presented with a massive futuristic statue, stylized by Hajime Sorayama. Those who are fans of The Weeknd have probably seen this figure in his house, or on the Echoes of Silence cover. But what if I told you this figure has played more into past and present pop culture than you could ever imagine? This figure came to life way before any of your favorite artists were born, nearly a century ago, specifically in the film Metropolis, which came out in 1927. The influential German science fiction film presents a highly stylized futuristic city with a beautiful and cultured utopia above a bleak underworld populated by mistreated workers. When the privileged youth, Frieder, discovers a grim scene under the city, he becomes intent on helping the workers. He befriends the rebellious teacher Maria, but this puts him at odds with his authoritative father, leading to more significant conflict. Music sits quite synonymously with film. Before we dive into musicians, I wanted to cover the many directors who have been influenced by Metropolis, specifically seen in the works of Ridley Scott in Blade Runner, George Lucas in Star Wars, and more recently, filmmakers like Rian Johnson in Looper, have all used similar imagery to Metropolis. Ultimately, the film's visual innovations and themes have left a massive mark on the art of cinema. Metropolis has also inspired an artist named Hajime Sorayama. Sorayama gained international recognition for his Sexy Robot series, which began in the 1970s. His hyper-realistic illustrations depict humanoid robots, often in seductive poses and settings. His work explores the boundary between human and machine, blurring the lines between technology and sensuality. Sorayama's meticulous attention to detail and use of reflective surfaces on his art gives his illustrations a distinct and lifelike quality. When it comes to music, although not every piece I will mention was done by him, the popularization of this theme is undoubtedly crowned by Sorayama. The universe of Metropolis was once again brought to life in Radio Gaga by Queen. The music video pays homage to Metropolis throughout and at the end of the video. 5 years later in 1989, Madonna did the same thing with the music video for Express Yourself, stating that I definitely wanted to have that influence, that look on all the men, the workers diligently and methodically working away. The music video ends with the phrase, "Without the heart, there can be no understanding between the hand and the mind." This reference is very similar to the quote from Metropolis, "There can be no understanding between the hand and the brain unless the heart acts as a mediator." The same influence can be found within the Heavy Metal magazine, an adult comic known for its science fiction, fantasy, and erotic content, alongside the 2001 Aerosmith cover for Just Push Play, taking the same robot designed for a compilation album, Video Sound, from 1985. Looking at all of this, I think that it's very interesting to see how we used to obsess with the mystery of the future. From the 60s with our obsession with chrome on everything, to the 80s with AI and robots. But now we're in the stage of life where all these close to unimaginable things have come to life. Through this, we're once again seeing the wake of ultra-futurism. It's important to note that The Weeknd is not the first person to bring this back in the last 2 decades, but rather Janelle Monáe, who based most of her 2000 album Metropolis, The Chase Suite, on this theme, exploring a futuristic, dystopian world inspired by the film. Monáe's alter ego, Sidney Mayweather, is a character who fights against oppression and seeks to unite humanity. More recently, the Europe leg of The Weeknd's tour had totally different imagery. The figures accompanying him on stage during his North American tour were dressed in red, and the entire theme was very dark. While in the Euro leg, he debuted this massive Sorayama statue, and its set is nearly a spitting image of the film Metropolis. It almost isn't a surprise that The Weeknd is taking homage to an era where we were obsessed with this theme of futurism. His most recent album, Dawn FM, is a vibrant album, characterized by dance pop and synth pop tracks that draw significant inspiration from the musical styles of the 1980s, such as new wave, funk, and electronic dance music. Throughout the record, we hear an upbeat energy and nostalgic sonic elements that pay homage to the vibrant soundscape of that era. This also all ties into the ending of The Weeknd's stage name. As mentioned by The Weeknd himself, the trilogy of After Hours, Dawn FM, and presumably his last album Afterlife, marks the end of the Weeknd era. Presumably, the idea of afterlife in futurism is simply the final step for an artist. There isn't really anything after futurism, hence Abel settling with this theme to send off his persona of The Weeknd, especially with his more recent announcement of no more features. When I say that this theme of Metropolis or Sorayama's work is the future of music, I can't really base the future of music on a single album. We actually see such themes of futurism on Travis Scott's album Utopia as well, especially in his earlier design stages. Even the name Utopia is synonymous with the idea of a better future, often depicted as the idea of a flawless society, where individuals live in peace and prosperity. Just as Dawn FM toyed with the idea of the past, so did Travis's last album, Astroworld. The album's imagery is inspired by the concept of an amusement park called Astroworld, which references a now closed theme park in Houston. Astroworld explored themes of escapism, nostalgia, and the pursuit of a thrilling experience, running parallelly with The Weeknd's album Dawn FM. Over the years, we've grown to love the idea of nostalgia, especially in the last decade. If you look at both fashion and music, from vintage shirts to sampling classics, our generation brought back vinyl, vintage home decor, and clothing. We find comfort in gripping onto things that we know or have already happened in a rapidly changing, unstable society. Cryptocurrency, AI, and new technology are almost always welcomed with the idea of fear, rather than progression. I think that the idea of the future is exciting, but something that we need to approach carefully. Either way, the approach that we gave to the future in the 80s is very refreshing, and I feel like we can all learn something from it. Maybe we do need to welcome the future with the idea of opportunity and change for the better, as both music and film did with Metropolis throughout the last century. Nostalgia can be rather overplayed and somewhat deceiving for the human brain. For the first time in a long time, the backbone of music is not going to rely on something that's already happened, but rather a new journey into the unknown, embarking a fresh perspective that we're all looking forward to.